Hey folks, JD here. So a little bit from me before we get into the video, and I recommend you listen to this and don't skip through it, because otherwise you're probably not going to understand how that video is going to come, how that video comes together a little way down the line. So this video is a little bit different to all of the other videos that I do. Now and again I have to do a video like this. I haven't done one for a long while. I think the last time I did one of these was on a DJI quadcopter a little while ago, which was quite a while ago. And essentially what this is looking at the newest firmware of this particular quad. Yesterday, as you remember, I updated the firmware. Now I'm going out to fly it. I'm looking at various different photo modes, various different bit rates, various different outputs as well, from 4K, 1080, 30 frames a second, 25 frames a second, NTSC and PAL. Looking at also a couple of ISO modes as well. The day that I had was the best of all of the days that we've had in about 3 week in a 3 week weekend window. This particular weather was not raining. It was very overcast, but we had a little bit of sun, so a little glimmer of hope. And quite literally, I'm absolutely astounded at how good the 1080p video looks of this quadcopter. You'll find that a little way further down the line in this video, about halfway through. I think about 14 and a half minutes. And to begin with, I started off with 4K. And then work on a couple of things. It's basically a gradual progression. I just go through them logically and end up exactly where we end up. And then right at the very end then I look at the gimbal, because I have a couple of gimbal concerns halfway through the video. I am flying in a very, very high wind day, between winds of 14 to 16 mile an hour. Although the quadcopter itself didn't have any issue with it, I'm astounded at just how rock solid that is in the air. What I did notice is what I wanted to try and iron out is whether or not, now and again you see the video waving a little bit as the GoPro, as the gimbal is moving, and what I wanted to ascertain was whether or not that was actually the video, the wind doing it, or whether it was actually the gimbal itself, the motor doing it. So right at the end of this video I come back and I do about another 3 or 4 minutes of this camera, of this quadcopter and gimbal directly on a totally solid surface, and trying to see whether or not I can get it to wobble. Suffice it to say, well, do you know what, I'm not going to spoil anything. Have a little look at the end of the video as well, see what you think of that. But I think personally at this particular stage, with there being all the firmware fully up to date, I think the hardware is responding particularly well. I have got in touch with Fimi anyway. I've sent them a couple of sample shots and just said, what do you think of this? Does that look about right? What are your thoughts on that? So I'm interested to see what they say, whether they say, yeah, that looks fine, or whether they say, actually, you know what, that doesn't look great. One thing I will say, though, is that the 1080p looked far superior to the 4K. Now, whether that's just on this quad, I couldn't tell you, but quite literally, that is exactly what I saw. So anyway, I'm going to shut up. Hope you enjoy this video. So I'm hoping what I'm going to get out of today is, I've changed the SD card as you saw in yesterday's video. I've now got a class 10 U3 card, which is the same as I use in my GoPro. I've tested it in my GoPro. It records back without there being any issue, so I'm happy with that. We've got the new firmware installed on this particular quadcopter, so I'm happy with that. The gimbal now looks to have sorted itself out, so I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do, I am going to screen record, because I like to have the telemetry. I like to have both aspects. I don't just want to put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to recording video. I like to have multiple videos recorded. Right then, so that's good. Let's go into the settings, into the video. NTSC, I'm going to change that for PAL. Video mode, yeah, I don't want it to be a time lapse. This is going to be 4K at 25 frames a second. Video quality is high, white balance is auto. Color, I'm going to leave that as general for the second. And style, I'm going to leave that as standard as well. So I've got video quality on the highest I possibly can have. So I'm hoping, even though the day is ridiculously awful, I have got very strong wind as well coming in from, this is going to sound quite funny, but strong wind coming in from behind me. Quite literally, it's coming in from the trees there, and it's blowing the quadcopter. Now, before we had a little bit of a lull, we were having winds of up to 14 miles an hour constant. So I don't know how this is going to do. What I am going to do though is I'm just going to change this quadcopter angle slightly. Now that, there we go. Now look at that. That vibration has come back. Let's move the quadcopter slowly. As you can see, it is being buffeted slightly, but not that much to cause that much movement in the gimbal. So perhaps let's move this a bit forward again. I'm going to get a bit more height with her and just see. She's holding herself very, very well. I mean, this wind is rated a lot under what the quadcopter can put up with on paper. The higher she goes, the more stable she seems to be, but that gimbal is still snapping. Still snapping. That is still snapping. I'm going to just alter the exposure slightly there, just to make it slightly brighter. Okay. Let's take her out for a little bit of a wang around. It's not going to be long today. It's just going to be a little bit of a wang around just so I can see this video. I mean, I'm loving how this thing flies. Absolutely loving how this thing flies. Absolutely incredible flyer. And overall, before these videos get uploaded, I'm happy with the video quality. What can I say? You know, what can I say? As it stands, I think the A3 has got better video quality than my particular X8 SE. But I'm looking at this, and again, it looks great. It genuinely looks great, but then again, I've got compressed pixel depth, so it's going to look good, you know? But I know that the film is recording. I know that it is recording directly to SD, because I can see the gigabitage decreasing. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter. Can I alter the camera settings mid-record? Yes, I can. No, I can't. Let's record then. I'm going to change that to NTSC, change it back. Okay, that looks a lot more whitewashed. Do you see that? So PAL, and then NTSC. I'm going to record an NTSC for a little moment and see how that looks. Let's see if I can get the optimal settings for this particular quadcopter. So let's move it around. That gimbal seems to have sorted itself out a bit. Punch her forward. Oh, she stopped recording. Let's record her again. Let's alter that gimbal direction as well. Okay, not as high as that, John. Good God. And that's it. See, because we've got a ridiculously horrible day. This really isn't the best conditions to be testing out a camera when everything is as dark as you like. Right, okay. But we'll do what we can, you know, there's not much I can do with that. This is why I'm keeping the camera pointed down, so I can bash as much light as possible into that sensor. There we go. Let's move it round. Let's take her back out. You can see exactly which way the wind is blowing. As soon as the quadcopter gets pushed by the wind, that's it, it's off. Again, yeah, there we go. That vibration has come back now. So it might very well be that I do have an issue, a hardware issue with the gimbal that can't be sorted out with firmware updates. If you are new to the channel and if you don't know what I do in that instance, when I do have a hardware issue with a quadcopter, I go back to the original set of quadcopters and I add a pinned note to say this quadcopter had a hardware issue, and I detail the video in which the hardware issue is. Now I might have with this one. See, I'm not 100%, because this wind is strong enough at the second to be pushing that gimbal back. What I need to do is I need to be testing this. I'll turn this on a bit later in the house, a little bit later in this video, and see if in the house I get that gimbal wobble. Because for the second, I'm still undecided as to whether I have seen wind push the gimbal of my Spark, push the gimbal of my Phantom 3, so, and of my Air. So at the same time, I'm undecided for the second as to whether or not it is a blatant hardware issue with the quad, or if it is actually an issue with just the wind. Now what I'm going to do, we've got some bright sky. I'm going to try and see if I can pop that camera up to the bright sky. It's not really going to prove anything at all or show anything much, but I can tell you one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Good God, that I'm absolutely certain of, and that's this quad is great in wind. Absolutely fantastic. Now I'm on an ISO of 400. Can I go lower? Yes, I can. I can go lower. I can go 200. Okay, let's change it to 200. And let's see what an ISO of 200 gives us. Because that's what I'd be doing with my handheld cameras, is I'd be changing the ISO to correspond to the type of day that I was having. And problem is if you have got a very dark day, changing the ISO can then mean that you end up having very noisy photos and very noisy video. Okay, so that's, I'm going to keep it hovering there for the second. That's 200. Let's go through the different ISOs. So if I keep her on auto for the second, then it'll automatically go back to 4, I'm guessing, because I didn't set it to 400. No, it's still staying at auto. It doesn't show you. Okay, let's keep it at auto for the second. I'm not a fan of automatic settings. As you'll know from my photography videos, I like to get stuck in, well, not just my photography videos, but from my quadcopter videos as well. But still, at the same time, let's get a bit stuck in. So far, we've been flying for a little bit. We've got 64% battery left. We've tried a load of different modes. Quadcopter's handling extremely well. Now, see, that gimbal snap is no longer there. Not that I can see, anyway. But then maybe when I blow up the video, maybe it will be there. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to be doing lots more videos with this guy anyway, even if it does prove to have a gimbal issue. The fun for me is flying. I don't do a lot of photography for people, a lot of videography, so not anymore. So the fun for me is flying, and she just flies remarkable, absolutely remarkably. Okay, let's go for let's have a little look. What else have we got? I wanted to have a little look and see whether we could try, I don't really know whether it's a good idea to try these try a lot of these features in this particular weather, because I don't know whether or not it's safe enough, because when I'm controlling her through the wind, I can adjust the power and everything quite fine. I think I might leave the other features for another video. Let's just concentrate on the camera on this one and see how it goes. Beautifully handled, really nice. She's great in weather, really great. She's got a lot of power behind her. Obviously you're going to see the battery deplete itself a lot quicker, that's standard, because A, you're punching through the wind, and B, as it's such a cold day, the batteries don't hold their charge as well when it's cold either. So there we go. So we've been flying for quite a while now. We've gone down 6 gig, so we've got quite a good little bit of video there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change that now. I'm going to change that to let's go to 1080. Let's go to 1080 at 30 frames a second. Ooh, 60. I do love a good 60 frames a second. So let's change that to 1080 at 30 frames. I'm just trying different video styles as well. Let's go through them and let's see different resolutions and see exactly what we can do with them. Let's see. Now 1080 already looks like it's added a lot more color. Good God, that looks so different. Oh, cars over there, turn around. That looks so different in 1080. So different. The color looks a lot, and it's still on general, still on auto, so it hasn't gone on to vivid, it hasn't gone on to anything else. It looks so remarkably, okay, still dark, but the grass has got so much more clarity to it, so much more quality. You can see the different clumps and the different styles of grass. Yeah, that does look lovely. That really does stand out well. That body of water there as well. Okay, that looks a bit dark, but still looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that so far. Pretty happy. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that's 1080 at 30 frames. So all in all, that looks pretty. Do you know what? I'm really happy with that. I did not expect it to look as good as that. I really did not. That looks pretty good. Oh, I got people in the field, folks. I'm gonna have to down it. So I shall bring her back, and I shall take her back up as soon as the field is clear again. Okay, so let's see. Let me just walk into frame. Let's see how this quad is doing. I got to keep her quite high because the wind is really pushing her down. But you can see she's holding extremely well. Now let's see. I'm going to see if I can bring her down as low as I can. I want to see whether or not, there we are, if this video is still wavy or how it looks. Right, I think 1080 is a remarkable improvement, but then again the quadcopter is moving all over the place, so I can't really 100% say, but it certainly looks to be better, which is good, because I had a few comments from people that said just stick it in 1080, mate, and it, you know, and leave it at that. So that's. And to be fair, 1080 is what I normally film in. I film everything with my GoPro at 4K. Everything else is filmed in a 1080, unless there's a specific 4K video that I make. But still, do you know what? I'm happy with the quad, and I am. You know, I can't see it any other way. She's handling herself remarkably well in this wind. It is rated exactly as it says in the wind, for the wind factor, because this is under the wind that she is rated to fly in. By quite a lot, and yeah, she's flying remarkably well. Battery's holding out pretty well as well. Last flight I had was 23 minutes, 23 minutes. This one I think is going to be shorter down to the environmental factors, but still, I'm really enjoying, I'm really liking exactly how much this particular quad is giving us. So that is great. That is really good. Well done. Oh, I just changed screen there with my thumb. There we go. So yeah, so I hope when I blow up these, I'll do a basic photo and video analysis second part video, just so I can compare the two videos in the two different modes, pre-upgrade and post-upgrade, and see where we go from there. But so far, I'm really liking this. I am. I think there is a bit of an improvement. I don't know yet whether that gimbal wobbling is down to A, the wind blowing the gimbal, or B, there actually being a hardware issue. So what I'm going to do is the next time I go to fly this, I think I'm going to leave it until it is a very still day. So then that is going to be my judge, because that quad doesn't produce, even though it has very high motors, you have to remember they are brushless. There's not a lot of vibration which is produced by them. Okay, there is some, of course, but they are very well balanced, therefore a well balanced motor will not vibrate a high degree. And having this on ground and having, excuse me, sorry, having this vibrate still isn't enough for that gimbal to cause that gimbal wobble. So I'm hoping it's the weather doing it. I'm hoping it's not a hardware issue, but I'm open to both. Whatever it is, come whatever may, nothing I can do about it, simple as that. So we'll see in another couple of days or in a week or so how good that is, because I've got to wait a while, because I think the next week is going to be nothing but rain. Oh joy. So far the update hasn't bricked it. It hasn't made any massive negative issue. Recording in 1080 seems to be a better fit than 4K, but we'll see when I have a look later on. So far, that's what I know. Control-wise, the firmware update hasn't negatively impacted the control. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. As for wind, the quadcopter handles wind fantastically well. You know, you can't say it doesn't. It handles it superbly. I haven't tried any features based on the fact that I don't want to give the quadcopter autonomy in this weather. And that goes for return to home, that goes for waypoints, that goes for droning, that goes for anything. I don't want to give it autonomy in this weather. When I'm hovering it here, my hands are close to the transmitter, or actually on the stick, so I can snap it back if anything was to happen. So
I think overall, I'm still very happy with it. Very happy with it. I'll see what happens with that video. The video looks to be better, but I have got a couple of concerns, but I'll explain those as well in other videos too. I have explained them all the way through this video, but still, I know some people like to skip. So in which case, I'll do another video which will explain that a little bit more. So there we go. I think all in all, we'll see how this goes. But so far, yeah, there's been no negative impacts. I just want... It'd be nice if I could have that video a little bit clearer. But I suppose we'll have to wait and find out. There we go, and there's the low battery warning. And she's great. She really is great. I mean, whoa, that was a little bit of wind there. This is always going to be dicey, landing it in high winds. But at the same time, you do what you can. You do what you can. Ah, it's not terrible. Considering it gets blasted everywhere. There we go, she's off. Right. Oh, there we are. So yeah, I mean, let's just hold that up and let's see whether there is any sort of snapping on that gimbal. I mean, I can't see anything. It's not... Ah, then it snapped back, didn't it? But then that could be with a lot of gimbals as well. Same as my handheld ones, they have their limits. And when they hit that limit, they do snap back. But I don't know. But it seems to be a standard movement. Seems to be there, seems to be working. I mean, it's not stiff. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take it apart and maybe I'll just oil it a little bit at the back. I've done that in the past with some other gimbals, and it has worked a little bit, but we'll see what happens. But still, I'm quite happy with that. All in all, I thought that was pretty good. I think now what I want to see is when I go home, I'll check out that video, because we've recorded 10 gig of video today, and I want to see exactly how that looks.
Okay then, so let's see whether or not how this gimbal responds in the house, because obviously what we had was, when we were outside, we had the gimbal twitch about a little bit, and I did say I wasn't sure as to whether or not that was actually caused by the wind, or whether that was caused by another factor, whether the gimbal itself is not stable, whether there's some issues with it after the firmware update, or if I do actually just have a hardware issue with this particular quad. So I've got here, as you can see, I've got the gimbal set up. It's just the quadcopter itself. If I just turn the camera a little bit, the quadcopter is quite literally just sat on my bed here in the workshop, and quite literally what I'm doing is got my transmitter set up there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be moving the gimbal around a little bit while keeping focus on the video here. What I'll do actually is I'll record the video so you can see it properly, because I want to see if the gimbal jutters about, if it moves about like it does in the video that you've just watched. If it doesn't, then I have to put that down to the environmental factors and not down to hardware. Now, so far, just moving it around on a nice, level, steady place, it looks to be fine. Now what I'm going to do, I don't know whether I can do it without having the SD card in it, because obviously at this point, I'm still going through all of the video from today. But what I am going to do is I'm going to, where was it? There. Yeah, I'm going to calibrate the gimbal again and see whether there's any problem. I mean, for this, I don't know if you can hear, this workshop was ground to a halt. Particularly for this video, I've turned off every 3D printer that I have. I've turned off my actual paper printer. I've turned off everything for this particular video, just so I can 100% categorically say that there's no vibration going through the floor with this gimbal. So what we're seeing from this quadcopter is actually the quadcopter and the gimbal itself. Right, so that's it, calibrated. And I want to see whether or not... Oh, see, the battery is so low in this, I don't know whether or not it's going to... Oh, there we go, it is working. Just the gimbal took an extra second there to calibrate. That's fine.
And no, this isn't an advert for Domino's. I have just had a bit of a cheeky pizza. But that seems to be working really well. It does seem to be working really well. I mean, it's not juttering about the place. If I pick up the quad, and if I move it round, so if I bring this round and point this at this mug of mine here, then I can move it round, and the camera seems to be doing remarkably well, doesn't it? It seems to be holding itself really, really well. I mean, if I point the quadcopter like a 70-degree angle, then yeah, the gimbal snaps back, but yeah, that seems to be doing okay. So I'm going to put that down for the second. I'm going to put it down to purely the environmental factors outside, because there's nothing else I can put it down to. It's not doing it in here. It's not doing it in the house. So I can't put it down to anything else bar that. When we have a nice still day, I'll be taking the quad out and seeing if we can get it to do it on a nice still day. Maybe there are too many vibrations coming through this particular quad. Maybe there is something else which is not holding it as strong as it should. We'll have to wait and find out for when we get a nice still day for me to actually put that to the test. But for the second, I'm going to say that I don't think there's a hardware issue with this gimbal, because it doesn't look to be. Look at it. It's absolutely it's perfect. Apart from the fact that my quadcopter battery is remarkably low, and it keeps on commenting on the fact that it's low, and the light in here is awful because I've got all the blinds closed. The gimbal itself isn't moving up and down like it was like that in some of the video. So I'm putting that down to wind and not down to hardware. I think that is the most logical step and the most truthful step as well, is that that gimbal certainly seems to be working the way that it should. You know, I can't say anything more than that. Alright, my friends. Well, thanks ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD. You've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and ring that bell too. Hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you're enjoying the channel. So until next time, my friends, happy flying.